2025/837, the text of a draft resolution submitted by the United States of America. The Council is ready to proceed to a vote on the draft resolution before it. I shall put the draft resolution to the vote now. Will those in favor of the draft resolution contained in document S/2025/837 please raise their hands? The result of the voting is as follows. The draft resolution received 15 votes in favor. The draft resolution has been adopted unanimously as Resolution 2810 of 2025. I now give the floor to those members of the Council who wish to make statements after the vote. I give the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you, Madam President. The United States appreciates the unity demonstrated by the Council in renewing the UN Security Council's Counter-Terrorism Executive Directorate, the CTED mandate. Sadly, the evolving global threat and costly toll of terrorism remains clear. In this month alone, 3 American lives were lost to terrorism in Syria, and 15 people were senselessly killed in an anti-Semitic terror attack at Bondi Beach in Australia. We reaffirm the Counterterrorism Executive Directorate's mandate today for another 3 years. Although this mandate's renewal cycle differs from the last few mandate renewals, it reflects and aligns with the United States' position that all UN special political missions must have more regular oversight to ensure their work remains focused and effective. We recognize the useful work of CTED has accomplished over the last 20 years to conduct 216 assessment visits to more than 120 member states and produce more than 40 analytical products on emerging terrorist trends. We also appreciate CTED's close collaboration with the UN Office of Counterterrorism and other relevant international organizations and stakeholders. This collaboration facilitates training and enables all member states to take the steps necessary to protect their citizens, their borders, and critical infrastructure against terrorist attacks. The responsibility of combating terrorist threats must be shared among those who have the most at stake. We welcome the steps other member states are taking to share this burden. Actually, one more page. Almost. Thank you. Looking forward, it is critical CTED remain focused on core counterterrorism measures related to denying financing and protecting borders. CTED must also prioritize and focus its visits and assessments on countries with the greatest risk and threats of terrorism, particularly the evolving threat of Islamist terrorism in Africa. The United States will continue to use all available tools at our disposal to counter the global scourge of terrorism. We welcome the constructive engagement by our fellow Council members to work together in this regard. And now I'm really finished. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the United States for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of France.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, President. France welcomes the renewal of the Counterterrorism Executive Directorate. CTED is an essential actor of the multilateral counterterrorism architecture. It plays an indispensable role in assessing the implementation of Council resolutions and in identifying ways of improving the situation that are targeted and adapted to the local situation via field visits and direct exchanges with competent state authorities. We thank CTED and all of its teams, as well as the Executive Director, for mobilizing to implement their mandate. This mobilization should continue, while terrorist groups, first and foremost Al-Qaeda and Daesh, continue to reconfigure and remain able to project their threat across all continents. France voted in favor of this resolution because we fully support CTED's mandate. Nonetheless, we regret that this mandate was renewed for only 3 years, not 4, as all of the Council's members except one wished. We hope that during the next renewal in 2029, we will revert to a quadrennial renewal. I thank you.
I thank the representative of France for the statement. There are no more names inscribed on the list of speakers. The meeting is adjourned.
Bosnia. The 10,082nd meeting of the Security Council is called to order. The provisional agenda for this meeting is the situation in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The agenda is adopted. The Security Council will now begin its consideration of item 2 of the agenda. The Council has before it the text of a statement by the President on behalf of the Council on the subject of today's meeting. I thank the Council members for their valuable contributions to this statement. In accordance with the understanding reached among the members of the Council, I shall take it that the members of the Council agree to the statement, which will be issued as a document of the Security Council under the symbol S/PRST/2025/8. The meeting is adjourned. The 10,083rd meeting of the Security Council is called to order. The provisional agenda for this meeting is the situation in the Middle East. The agenda is adopted. In accordance with Rule 37 of the Council's Provisional Rules of Procedure, I invite the representative of the Syrian Arab Republic to participate in this meeting. It is so decided. The Security Council will now begin its consideration of item 2 of the agenda. I wish to draw the attention of Council members to document S/2025/784, the report of the Secretary General on the United Nations Disengagement Observer Force. Members of the Council have before them document S/2025/827, the text of a draft resolution submitted by the Russian Federation and the United States of America. The Council is ready to proceed to the vote on the draft resolution before it. I shall put the draft resolution to the vote now. Will those in favor of the draft resolution contained in document S/2025/827 please raise their hand? The result of the voting is as follows. The draft resolution received 15 votes in favor. The draft resolution has been adopted unanimously as Resolution 2811. I now give the floor to those members of the Council who wish to make statements after the vote. I give the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to begin by thanking the Council for supporting UNDOF's mandate renewal today. This vote ensures continuity for a mission that plays an important role upholding peace, security, and stability along the Israel-Syria border, thereby supporting the conditions necessary for a future political resolution between the two countries. We also thank the parties for their continued cooperation with UNDOF, and most importantly, we thank UNDOF for its continued work as its personnel operate in a dynamic and at times volatile environment. Colleagues, as co-pen holder on this resolution, our goal was simple. We sought to streamline the text, distilling it down to the core language that would direct UNDOF to continue fulfilling its mandate, one that has long enjoyed unanimous support from this Council. This effort was guided by our back-to-basics approach. From the outset, we were clear with all that we were not accepting new language, but rather shortening the existing text. We were equally clear that in doing so, we were pursuing the continuation of UNDOF's existing task and mission and seeking to change UNDOF's mandate or not seeking to change UNDOF's mandate or its focus. In closing, we once again thank the Council for renewing UNDOF's mandate today, and we thank our co-pen for its close cooperation throughout this process. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the United States for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation.
Mr. President, we're grateful to all Security Council members which supported the Russo-American draft resolution regarding the extension of the UNDOF mandate for another 6 months. This is a Russian and U.S. initiative, and on our initiative, the changes were made to the document. It's more concise, it's more succinct. At the same time, it endorsed key aspects of some components of UNDOF's mandate and situation in the goal endorsed by previous Security Council resolutions. The main thing is that there's an unequivocal call for the parties to the conflict to implement Resolution 338, dated 1973, as well as the Separation of Forces Agreement, dated 1974. We're particularly disquieted by ongoing violations of the 1974 agreement, specifically the illegal presence of Israeli divisions in the buffer zone, and this for over a year now. Equally disquieting is the IDF's advance further into Syria, as well as indiscriminate strikes on the sovereign territory of the Arab Republic. We call on Western Jerusalem to follow in Damascus' example and to exercise restraint, avoiding any unilateral, illegitimate and provocational steps. We call on it also to maintain regular contacts with UNDOF so as to settle any differences which arise. We stand convinced that under current conditions, the presence of peacekeepers in the Golan Heights occupied by Israel is particularly important. This should be a restraining factor in the zone of separation. We are grateful to the mission personnel, UNDOF personnel, as well as to all the troop interbriefing countries which are sending their peacekeepers to the area of operations. By way of conclusion, we'd like to reassert our unwavering position, that is, the Syrian Golan Heights are an inseparable part of Syria, as per Security Council Resolution 497 and subsequent UN Security Council decisions. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the Russian Federation for the statement. I give the floor to the representative of China.
主席，安理会刚刚一致通过第2811号决议，决定将联合国脱离接触观察员部队的授权延期6个月。我愿就中方投票立场作出说明。第一，联脱部队自1974年成立以来，为维护地面局势总体稳定发挥了重要作用。在当前形势下，确保联脱部队工作连续性，维护戈兰高地局势稳定尤为重要。为此，中方对决议草案投了赞成票。中方愿重申，所有当事方都有义务全面执行1974年部队脱离接触协议。未经授权的外国部队不应该在叙以隔离区内驻扎。 联托部队根据安理会授权职责
Implementation of UNDOF's
应该
duty in
得到保
accordance with
障。
the mandate given by Security Council should be
第
guaranteed.
二，叙利亚的主权、
Second, Syria's
独立、
sovereignty,
统
independence,
一和领土
unity,
完整
and territorial
应该得到
integrity
充
should
分
be
尊重。
fully respected.
这是处理叙利亚问
This
题
is a
必须坚持
principle
的
that
原则。
must be upheld in addressing the
戈兰
Syrian
高地是
issue.
国际社会公认的叙
The
利亚
Golan Heights are
被占
recognized
领
by the
土。
international community as Syria's
安理会
occupied
早在
territory.
1981年通过第
As early as
497号
1981,
决
the
议，
Security Council adopted
对
Resolution
叙利亚戈兰高
497,
地的
in
法
which
律地
it
位
concluded on
作
the
出
legal
结论，
status of the Syrian Golan
明
Heights,
确对叙利亚戈兰
explicitly
高地的占
declaring
领
the
是完
occupation
全
of the
无效
Syrian
的。
Golan Heights has null and
安理会有
void.
关决议
Relevant
必
Security
须
Council
得
resolutions
到落
must
实。
be implemented.
第三，
Third,
叙利亚问题的全面
a
解决
comprehensive solution to the
离不开
Syrian
和
issue
平稳定
cannot be
的
achieved
国内环
without a
境。
peaceful and stable domestic
12月
environment.
26日，
On December
叙利亚
26,
霍姆斯市
a terrorist
一座
attack
清
on
真
the
寺
mosque
发
in
生
the Syrian
恐
city
袭
of
事件，
Homs resulted in
导致
heavy
重大人员伤亡
casualties.
中方反对一
China
切形式
opposes
恐
terrorism
怖
in
主义，
all its forms
对事件
and
表示
strongly
强烈谴责。
condemns this attack.
这同时说明，
At the same time, it
叙国
shows
内
that the
反恐形势
counter-terrorism
依然
situation in
严峻复
Syria
杂。
remains grave and
我们
complex.
呼吁叙利亚过
We
渡
call
政
on
府
transitional
切实
government
履
of
行
Syria to
国际
fulfill
义
its
务，
international obligations in
采
good
取一
faith
切
and take
有
all
效
effective
措施，
measures to resolutely
坚决打击包
combat
括
all
东伊运在
international
内的
terrorist
所有
organizations
被安理会
listed
列
by
明
the
的
Security Council,
国际
including the
恐怖组织，
TIM,
实现国内安
in
全
order
稳
to
定。
achieve security and stability in the country.
谢谢主席。
Thank you, President.
I thank the representative of China for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of Somalia.
Thank you, Mr. President. We also want to thank the co-pen holders, United States of America and the Russian Federation, for their efforts in drafting today's resolution. Somalia voted in favor of this resolution to extend the mandate of United Nations Disengagement Observer Force, UNDOF. We do so at a time when the security situation is deteriorating and as a result of the persistent unilateral actions. While UNDOF remains an essential mechanism for stability, its effectiveness is being systematically undermined. Mr. President, Somalia reaffirms its unwavering support for the sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity of the Syrian Arab Republic. We stand unequivocally that Golan Heights are Syrian land and demand the full return of all occupied Syrian territories in accordance with international law and the relevant Security Council resolutions. Any attempt to alter the legal or the demographic status of the occupied Syrian territories is null and void without legal effect. My delegation strongly condemns the repeated violations of the Syrian sovereignty and the blatant disregard for the 1974 Disengagement of Forces Agreement. We denounce Israel's continued military incursions and unauthorized presence in the areas of separation, which directly threaten the regional peace. The use of the area of operations for provocative military activities risks triggering a full-scale regional escalation. We urge the occupying power to adhere strictly to the disengagement agreement and cease its hostility acts against the Syrian territory. Mr. President, we express our profound disappointment that UNDOF mandate was not renewed for a full year in an increasingly volatile environment. A shorter mandate creates unnecessary uncertainty and fails to provide the long-term stability required for the mission to operate effectively. We emphasize the absolute necessity of ensuring that the safety and security of UNDOF personnel. We demand that all parties facilitate the mission's full freedom of movement and remove all obstructions in its mandate. UNDOF must continue to operate in an impartial, credible manner, but this cannot occur in a vacuum while international law is being disregarded. In conclusion, Somalia reaffirms its strong support for UNDOF and its important role in maintaining peace and security in the region. We reiterate that the lasting peace and stability in the Middle East can only be achieved through full respect for international law, relevant Security Council resolutions, and restoration of the occupied lands. We remain committed to the principles that the dialogue and diplomacy must be rooted in the respect for the national borders and the end of illegal occupation. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Somalia for the statement. And now I give the floor to the representative of the Syrian Arab Republic.
Thank you, Mr. President.
ها قد قال مجلس الأمن كلمته
The
منذ
Security
لحظات
Council has just
وأعلن
spoken
بوضوح
moments ago and
وبالإجماع
stated clearly
بأن
and
اتفاق فض
unanimously that
الاشتباك
the
واجب
disengagement
الاحترام
agreement must
والتنفيذ.
be respected and implemented.
ومن يقرأ فقرات القرار
Anyone who
ويستمع إلى
carefully reads
الإحاطات
the
الوافية
operative
لوكيل
paragraphs of
الأمين
the
العام
resolution and
لعمليات
listens to the
السلام
comprehensive briefings
السيد
delivered by
جون
the
بيير لكروا
Under-Secretary General for Peace
بل
Operations,
وحتى إلى
Mr.
التصريحات
Jean-Pierre
الإسرائيلية
Lacroix,
نفسها
and even to the
يدرك
Israeli
ببساطة
statements
بأن
themselves
إسرائيل
can
ما زالت
only
تنتهك
conclude that
كل
Israel
كلمة فيه
continues to violate every
وأصبح لدى
word of that
الجميع
agreement.
تصورات عن واقع
Everyone now
الجنوب
has
السوري
a clear understanding of the
وقد
realities
تفيدنا
prevailing
هذه
in southern
الخريطة سيد
Syria.
الرئيس في شرح هذا الواقع
This
فاسمحوا لي أن
map
أشرح
can explain that
إسرائيل تحتل الجولان
fact,
السوري
Mr.
منذ ما
President. Allow me
يقارب
to explain.
60
Israel has
عاما
occupied the Syrian Golan for
الجولان
almost 60
الذي أعادت
years.
الجمعية العامة
Golan
بداية الشهر الماضي
that
الجاري التأكيد على
earlier this
سوريته
month the General
وصوتت
Assembly
123
reaffirmed its
دولة على
Syrian
وجوب انسحاب إسرائيل منه
123
بالكامل
states voted in favor
فيما
of
وصف
the
مندوب
resolution
إسرائيل
that
هذه
demanded Israel to
المطالبة
withdraw
بأنها
from all
منفصلة عن
such
الواقع
territories and
ومنذ
demanded the
عام
Israeli representative
تتواجد
described
قوات
as
الاحتلال
disconnected from
كما ذكر
reality.
الأعضاء
For
هنا
over a year,
في
as
منطقة
mentioned by
الفصل
the
بين
delegates
القوات
here, Israeli occupation
هذه
forces have been
المنطقة التي
present in the area
تتواجد
of
بها قوات
separation.
الأندف
That's where the
وتتوغل
UNDF
إلى ما بعدها حتى وتصرح
is currently
باستمرار
located
بأنها
and
لن
even
تنسحب
beyond that
من جبل
separation
الشيخ
zone. And they have repeatedly
الذي
declared
تقع
that they will not
قمته
withdraw
سيد
from the
الرئيس
Mount
في هذه
Hermon.
المنطقة
The
على
summit of
الحدود
the mount
السورية
lies along
اللبنانية
the Syrian
والتي هي
Lebanese
بعيدة
border,
أصلا عن
which
الجولان
is
المحتل
geographically distant from the occupied
السيد
Golan.
الرئيس
Mr.
لقد
President,
أجابت إحاطة السيد
the
لكروا لكم
briefing
الأسبوع
delivered
قبل
by Mr.
الفائت على
Lacroix
الكثير
to
من
this
الأسئلة
council the past week has
هل
answered so
توجد
many
أي
questions.
قوات
Are there
سورية
any
مسلحة
Syrian
في
armed
المناطق
forces
الخاضعة
present in
للتفتيش؟
the areas subject to inspection? No.
هل وسعت إسرائيل
Has
من
Israel
وجودها في الجنوب
expanded its
السوري
presence in
وتستمر
southern
في
Syria and
انتهاكات
continues
قرارات
to
مجلسكم
violate the
الموقر؟
resolutions of this esteemed
نعم.
council? Yes.
هل عمليات التحصين
Are
والبناء الإسرائيلية
Israeli
في
fortification
منطقتي
and
الفصل
construction
والتحديد
activities
ما
in the
زالت
areas of
جارية؟
separation and limitation
نعم.
still ongoing?
فقد أكد
Yes.
السيد لكروا
Mr.
لكم
Lacroix
بل وأضاف
confirmed
بأنه لا يوجد
that.
أي
And he
مؤشرات
further
بأن
added that there are no
إسرائيل لديها
indications
النية
that Israel
للانسحاب على
intends
المستوى
to
المنظور.
withdraw at the foreseeable level.
إذن السيد الرئيس
So,
هل ما
according
زال
to the
لديكم
above,
شك
Mr. President,
بادعاء إسرائيل
is there
بعد كل
any
هذا
doubt
بكذب
in light of the
ادعائها
above
بأن تواجدها في منطقة
as
الفصل
to the falsity
مؤقت
of Israel's claim
ومحدود
that its
كما
presence in
تزعم؟
the area of separation is temporary and
يدرك
limited
المجتمع
as
الدولي
it
تماما
alleges?
من هو
The
الطرف
international
الذي
community
ينتهك
is fully aware of
ومن
which
الطرف
party
الذي
is
يلتزم
violating its obligations and which
ويدرك
party is
أيضاً
abiding by them.
من الطرف
The
الذي
international
يسعى إلى
community
الحل
also is fully aware of
بوساطة
who is trying
أمريكية
to find a
مشكورة
solution
ومن الطرف
with
الذي يعرقل
an American mediation
وأكرر
that we are
السؤال
thankful
الذي
for and who
سألتكم
is
إياه في
obstructing
الجلسة
such
الأخيرة
efforts.
المتعلقة
And I
بسوريا
reiterate the question I posed to you
ما
during the
الذي
previous
تكافأ
meeting on
بها
Syria.
سوريا
How is Syria
تكافأ
being
به سوريا
rewarded
مقابل
for its
التزامها بالشرعية
commitment to
الدولية
international legitimacy?
هل المكافأة
Is the
هي
reward
المزيد والمزيد
more and
من
more
الاعتداءات
attacks,
والتوغلات البرية
grounding
والمسيرات
incursions, drones,
والاعتداء على المدنيين
and assaults
السوريين
on Syrian
وخطفهم
civilians,
وقتلهم؟
their abduction and
السيد
killing?
الرئيس
Mr.
لقد
President,
أشادت الأمم
the
المتحدة
United
في عدة
Nations
مناسبات
has on numerous
بحرص سوريا
occasions
على تسهيل
commended
عمل
Syria
القوة
for its
أي قوة
commitment to
الأندف
facilitating the
دون
work
أي
of the
مضايقات
UNDF
أو
without
مخاطر
any harassment or risk.
وتؤمن لها البيئة
Syria is
المناسبة لاطلاعها
providing the conducive
بولايتها بالشكل
environment so
الأمثل
that it can carry out its
ولا
mandate in the
يسعني
best possible
ونحن
manner.
على بداية العام المقبل
And as we're
إلا أن
approaching a new
أتمنى
year, I
لأفراد
can
هذه
only wish the
القوة
personnel
السلامة
of the UNDF
وألا
continued
وألا
safety.
يمسهم أي
I wish
خطر
that
أو
no
سوء
harm or
جراء
danger befall
التهور
them
الإسرائيلي
as a result of the Israeli
منطقة
recklessness
عملياتها.
within its area of operations.
Mr. President, given that Syria was mentioned a couple of weeks ago as part of a New Year's resolution for the Security Council by a certain delegation, let me share our New Year's resolution in this context. It's an UNDF force that is able to operate to fulfill its mandate freely and without being surrounded by Israeli occupation forces from each and every side. And of course, our resolution, although that falls within the realm of wishful thinking, unfortunately, is an Israel that abides by Security Council resolutions and adheres to international law. In closing, Mr. President, let me personally thank you for the exemplary presidency of this month. It was a very heavy Syria month, but I think you've done a fantastic job, and you will be very missed from this council. Thank you very much.
I thank the representative of the Syrian Arab Republic for the statement as well as for nice words addressed to my delegation. There are no more names inscribed on the list of speakers. The meeting is adjourned. The 10,084th meeting of the Security Council is called to order. The provisional agenda for this meeting is Threats to International Peace and Security. The agenda is adopted. In accordance with Rule 37 of the Council's Provisional Rules of Procedure, I invite the representatives of Djibouti, Egypt, Israel, Kuwait, South Africa, and Turkey to participate in this meeting. It is so decided. In accordance with Rule 39 of the Council's Provisional Rules of Procedure, I invite Mr. Khaled Chiari, Assistant Secretary General for the Middle East, Asia, and the Pacific, Department of Political and Peacebuilding Affairs and Peace Operations, to participate in this meeting. It is so decided. In accordance with Rule 39 of the Council's Provisional Rules of Procedure, I also invite the following to participate in this meeting: His Excellency Mr. Majed Al-Abdelaziz, Permanent Observer of the Permanent Observer Mission of the League of Arab States to the United Nations, and Mr. Salem Matouk, Chargé d'Affaires of the African Union Mission to the United Nations. It is so decided. The Security Council will now begin its consideration of item 2 of the agenda. I now give the floor to Mr. Khaled Chiari.
Microphone for the briefer, please.
Mr. President, on 26th of December, Prime Minister Netanyahu announced Israel's official recognition of Somaliland as an independent and sovereign state. Subsequently, on the same day, Somaliland issued a statement welcoming what it termed as historic and principled decision by the State of Israel to officially recognize what it described as its sovereignty and independence. The statement noted that the recognition represented a milestone in Somaliland's long-standing pursuit of international legitimacy and what it asserted its historical, legal, and moral entitlement to statehood. Moreover, the statement affirmed that the recognition gave rise to establishment of full diplomatic relations between Somaliland and the State of Israel and will proceed to deepen cooperation across a broad range of sectors. Mr. President, In response to these developments, the federal government of Somalia issued a statement reaffirming its absolute and non-negotiable commitment to its sovereignty, national unity, and territorial integrity as enshrined in the Provisional Constitution of the Federal Republic of Somalia, the Charter of the United Nations, and the Constitutive Act of the African Union. The federal government of Somalia further stated that it categorically and unequivocally rejected what it characterized as a deliberate attack on its sovereignty. The Somali statement further noted that no external actor has the authority or standing to alter its unity or territorial configuration. Therefore, according to the statement, Somalia considers any declaration, recognition, or arrangement that seeks to undermine this reality to be null and void, and without any legal or political effect under international law. In its statement, Somalia also underscored that it would not permit the establishment of any foreign military bases or arrangements that would draw the country into proxy conflicts or import regional and international hostilities into this region. The federal government of Somalia warned that actions of this nature seriously undermined regional peace and stability and exacerbated tensions in the region. On 27 December, a joint session of Somalia's two houses of parliament also condemned and rejected what it termed the unlawful recognition of Somaliland by Israel. In a statement, the parliament further noted that any recognition by Israel or any other country is null and void, without legal basis, and has no international legal effect. Mr. President, Israel's announcement prompted widespread reactions from the region and beyond, including from Egypt, Jordan, Djibouti, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, among others, as well as a joint statement by 20 Middle Eastern and African countries rejecting and condemning Israel's recognition of Somaliland. Several regional organizations have issued similar statements stating the importance of respecting the unity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of the Federal Republic of Somalia, including the League of Arab States, the Eastern African Community, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and the European Union. The chairperson of the African Union Commission on 26 December rejected any recognition of Somaliland and reaffirmed the African Union's unwavering commitment to the unity and sovereignty of Somalia. The chairperson of the Commission further noted that any attempt to undermine the unity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of Somalia runs counter to the fundamental principles of the African Union and risks setting a dangerous precedent with far-reaching implications for peace and stability across the continent. In closing, Mr. President, I would like to recall, as has the Secretary General, that the Security Council has repeatedly affirmed the respect for the sovereignty, territorial integrity, political independence, and unity of Somalia, as most recently reaffirmed in Resolution 2809 of 23 December 2025. I also call on Somali stakeholders to engage in peaceful and constructive dialogue, in particular recalling the 2023 Djibouti communique on talks between the federal government of Somalia and Somaliland. I thank you.
I thank Mr. Chiari for his briefing. I now give the floor to those council members who wish to make statements. I give the floor to the representative of Somalia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the honor to deliver this statement on behalf of A3+, mainly Algeria, Guyana, Sierra Leone, and my own country, Somalia. We express our appreciation for the presidency for promptly convening this meeting at the request of A3+, joined by China, Pakistan, and Russian Federation. I also want to welcome the participation of the representatives from the Arab League nations, the African Union, Djibouti, Kuwait, South Africa, Turkey, to this meeting. Mr. President, I also want to thank ASG Khalid Chiari for his briefings. Mr. President, A3+ strongly condemns the flagrant assault by Israel on the unity and the territorial integrity of Somalia by recognizing as an independent entity to the northwestern region of Somalia, so-called Somaliland, which is legally incapable of entering into any agreement or arrangement or recognition with another country. Any such purported arrangements are therefore null and void. Further, this action represents a direct violation of the UN Charter, the African Union's fundamental principles, and a breach of cornerstone of the international law. Respect for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the states. This act of aggression is aimed at encouraging fragmentation of the territory of Somalia, which is the northwestern region, is an integral part and is destabilizing the Horn of Africa, entire Horn of Africa, and the Red Sea region. It should be firmly rejected and condemned unequivocally by all member states. A3+ therefore rejects this announcement by Israel and calls for it to be rescinded. In this regard, A3+ aligns itself with the recent statements of the chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, in categorically rejecting all attempts at undermining the independence, sovereignty, territorial integrity of Somalia. A3+ reaffirms the long-standing and consistent position of the African Union, rooted firmly in the constitutive act of the Union and the principles of respecting borders inherited at independence, as proclaimed in 1964 decision of the Organization of African Unity, Cairo Declaration. We further call on all member states to take a unified and principled stand against this illegal action, which undermines the very foundation of the international legal order. A3+ seizes this opportunity to welcome all regional, international, bilateral, and multilateral partners who express their clear support and the commitment to the sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity of Somalia. Mr. President, taking note of the statements made by some officials regarding the forced involuntary relocation of Palestinians from their homeland to other countries, A3+ unequivocally reject any steps aimed at advancing this objective, including any attempt by Israel to relocate the Palestinian population from Gaza to northwestern region of Somalia. This action is not only unlawful, but is morally responsible. Recalling the provisional measures and advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice regarding the forcible displacement of Palestinian people from their land, we call on Israel to comply with its legal obligations on this matter. A3+ will neither accept nor condone the illegal use of any territory, let alone that of sovereign state, which is a member of the United Nations, to deny the right of self-determination to a people who have been subjected to crimes against humanity for many, many years. Neither the future of the Palestinian people nor the territorial sovereignty of Somalia can be used as a bargaining chip. This utter disdain for law and morality must be stopped now. We further underscore our steadfast support for the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people, including their right to self-determination and their right to their homeland in accordance with the two-state solution. Rather than contributing genuinely to the commendable international peace efforts in the Middle East through the long overdue recognition of independent, sovereign Palestinian state, Israel has instead chosen to project instability into the Horn of Africa, promote divisions, and create new sources of tensions in the region already facing multidimensional and complex challenges. Mr. President, in closing, A3+ reiterates its unwavering commitment to the Somalis' unity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. No external actor has the legitimacy or authority to alter the unity, the sovereignty, or territorial configuration of Somalia or any other sovereign state. Israel's action not only set a dangerous precedent, but also posed a serious threat to regional and international peace and security. A3+ calls again on the international community to uphold its responsibility under the United Nations Charter and to reject any act that undermines the sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity of Somalia or the rights of the Palestinian people through a manipulative and immoral actions. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Somalia for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of the United Kingdom.
Thank you, President. I thank ASG Chiari for briefing us. I will make 3 points. First, the United Kingdom reaffirms its support for the sovereignty, territorial integrity, political independence, and unity of Somalia. The UK does not recognise Somaliland's independence. We maintain that any change to Somaliland's status depends on mutual agreement between Mogadishu and Hargeisa through dialogue and must conform to the purposes and principles of the UN Charter. We regret any action that risks undermining peace and security in the region. Second, we urge further efforts between the federal government of Somalia and the Somaliland authorities to address differences and work together to face common threats. Al-Shabaab and other terrorist organizations benefit from internal divisions in Somalia. We encourage Mogadishu and Hargeisa to pursue dialogue with the support of regional bodies and the international community to resolve these divisions. Third, we underscore the importance of continued international support to Somalia's security transition. Just this month, the Council renewed its authorizations for the African Union Support and Stabilisation Mission in Somalia, extended the provision of the UN logistical support to AWSOM through UNSOS, and mandated a strong package of sanction measures to degrade Al-Shabaab. In September, the United Kingdom announced a contribution of over $30 million to support Somalia's security transition, including $22 million to AWSOM. As a close and long-standing partner of Somalia, we remain committed to supporting the federal government in its efforts to build a secure and stable Somalia. We urge greater international support to this end. In closing, President, the UK also welcomes the peaceful conduct of the local elections in Mogadishu and reaffirms its support for Somalia's democratic aspirations. We encourage all political actors to work together to reach consensus on next steps. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the United Kingdom for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Assistant Secretary General Chiari, for your briefing. Colleagues, meetings such as today's distract from serious work to address issues of international peace and security, including in both the Middle East and the Horn of Africa. Israel has the same right to conduct diplomatic relations as any other sovereign state. Earlier this year, several countries, including members of this Council, made the unilateral decision to recognize a non-existent Palestinian state, and yet no emergency meeting was called to express this Council's outrage. This Council's persistent double standards and misdirection of focus distract from its mission of maintaining international peace and security. On the matter of Somaliland, we have no announcement to make regarding U.S. recognition of Somaliland, and there has been no change in American policy. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the United States for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of Panama.
Gracias, Presidente.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Debo confesar
I
que al
must
ofrecerme a
confess
usted ahora el uso de la palabra,
that as you gave me the floor
estuve
now,
tentado a
I
contestarle
was
que
tempted
no deseaba
to
hacer una
respond
intervención.
that I didn't want to make a
Sin embargo,
statement.
no quise perder tal
However,
vez esta última
I
oportunidad
don't think I
durante
should
su
lose this
presidencia
last
de
opportunity under your
felicitarlo
presidency to
por su
congratulate you
atinada gestión
on
de
your
ella.
great management
Permítame ser
of the
breve.
Council, and allow me to be
Nuestro
brief.
país sigue
Our country
con preocupación
continues to
las
follow with
tensiones alrededor
concern
de la decisión
the
anunciada el 26
tension
de
related
diciembre
to
por
the
el
26
gobierno de
December
Israel
decision taken by the
de
government of Israel
reconocer a
to
Somalilandia
recognize
como un
Somaliland
Estado
as an
independiente y
independent
soberano.
and sovereign state.
Panamá desea ser
Panama
muy claro en
would
su
like to be
posición de
very
principio.
clear in our principled
La
position.
Carta de las Naciones
The
Unidas,
Charter of the United
el
Nations,
respeto a la soberanía,
respect for
la
the
independencia
sovereignty,
política
political
y la
independence,
integridad
and
territorial de
territorial
los estados
integrity of states
constituyen la base
constitute
del
the
orden
basis
internacional.
of the international order.
Durante este año, en
During
que
this
Panamá
year,
ha
in which
compartido
Panama
membresía
has
en el
shared
Consejo de
membership on
Seguridad
the Security
con
Council
Somalia,
with Somalia,
hemos sido
we
testigos de los
have
complejos
witnessed the
desafíos
complex
que enfrenta el
challenges that the
país,
country
pero
faces,
también
but
de los
also
avances
the
logrados
progress
mediante el
achieved
diálogo,
through
el
dialogue,
acompañamiento internacional
international support,
y el
and the
compromiso
commitment
de sus
of its
instituciones.
institutions.
En ese
In
sentido,
this regard,
consideramos
we consider
fundamental
it essential
mantener la
to
centralidad de
maintain
Somalia como
the
Estado
centrality
miembro de las
of
Naciones
Somalia
Unidas
as a
y
member state of the United
preservar el
Nations
marco
and preserve
multilateral
the existing
existente.
multilateral
Señor
framework.
Presidente,
Mr. President,
por su propia naturaleza,
by
estos
their very
asuntos
nature,
exigen
these
prudencia,
matters require
apego estricto
prudence,
y
strict
respeto al
adherence
derecho
to and
internacional
respect for
y sobre
international
todo
law, and above
soluciones
all,
pacíficas
peaceful
basadas en el
solutions
diálogo
that are based
con el
on
liderazgo de
dialogue
los
with the
actores
leadership of
directamente
the actors
involucrados
directly
y sobre
involved,
todo
and
enmarcadas
above
en
all,
procesos regionales
framed within
y
regional and
multilaterales.
multilateral processes.
Presidente, en un
President,
contexto
in an
internacional
international
caracterizado por
context
múltiples
characterized
tensiones
by
y crisis
multiple
simultáneas,
tension and
este
simultaneous
Consejo tiene la
crises, this Council
responsabilidad
has the
de
responsibility
reafirmar
to
que los cambios
reaffirm
de estatus
that changes
territorial
in
no
territorial
deben
status
derivarse de
should
hechos
not
consumados
result
ni de
from fait
reconocimientos
accompli or
unilaterales.
unilateral
La
recognitions.
paz y la seguridad
International
internacionales
peace
se
and
sostienen
security
cuando
are
las normas se
sustained
aplican
when
de
norms
manera
are applied
uniforme,
in a consistent,
coherente con la participación de los
coherent
estados
manner with the
afectados y en
participation of the
particular
states concerned,
aquellas
in particular
relativas a la
those
soberanía
relating to the
y la
sovereignty
integridad territorial
and
de los
territorial
estados.
integrity
Muchas
of
gracias.
states. Thank you very much.
I thank the representative of Panama for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of the Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the outset, I would like to commend Slovenia for its effective stewardship of the Council during the month of December. I also thank ASG Kerry for the informative briefing provided today. The Security Council adopted this month of 2 resolutions concerning Somalia, namely the extension of a mandate of the African Union Support and Stabilization Mission and sanctions against Al-Shabaab. And these 2 resolutions reflects the international community's continued commitments to peace and security in Somalia. However, the recent diplomatic developments related to Somalia warrant close attention as they carry broader implications for regional stability and for the principles that underpin our collective efforts. In this context, we believe it is important to continue engaging with all relevant parties in a manner that respect sovereignty, support dialogue, and contribute to practical cooperation in addressing shared challenges. I'd like to make 3 points. First, the Republic of Korea reiterates its firm support for the sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity of the Federal Republic of Somalia, in accordance with the principles of the United Nations Charter. Our respect for Somalia's sovereignty necessarily entails full recognition of its internationally recognized borders, which remain essential to ensuring clarity, predictability, and stability in regional relations. Accordingly, we support the authority of the federal government of Somalia as exercised within its internationally recognized borders and in accordance with Somali constitution. Second, we recognize the value of efforts aimed at strengthening bilateral and regional relations, including initiatives that promote dialogue and confidence building between Israel and its neighbors. However, we believe that such efforts, in order to be constructive and sustainable, must be pursued in full respect of the sovereignty of the state concerned and in a way that supports rather than undermines ongoing dialogues among Somali stakeholders. Third, we encourage relevant Somali stakeholders to actively engage in good faith dialogue to address different views related to governance arrangements and the exercise of authority, including questions concerning territorial integrity and respective roles of federal and regional institutions. As reflected in recently adopted Security Council resolutions, all Somali parties share responsibility for strengthening cooperation and engaging in discussions for the benefit of all Somalis. Coordinated efforts remain essential for fostering mutual understanding, strengthening national cohesion, and advancing an inclusive political process that supports Somali's national priorities. We also acknowledge the important role played by the UN and regional partners in supporting the peaceful resolution of disputes related to Somalia and promoting its peace and stability. Mr. President, as our term on the Security Council comes to an end, this may be our final interventions in this chamber. Nevertheless, the Republic of Korea's commitment to peace, stability, and security in Somalia and beyond remains unwavering. We will continue to support the work of the UN and its partners in advancing these shared objectives. In this spirit, we again extend our best wishes to the incoming members of the Security Council, Bahrain, Colombia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Latvia, and Liberia, as they assume their important responsibilities. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the Republic of Korea for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of Denmark.
Thank you, Mr. President. And let me also take this opportunity to thank Slovenia for a very successful presidency during the month of December. Denmark welcomes the opportunity for the Security Council to address the recent announcement by Israel regarding the unilateral recognition of Somaliland. I thank ASG Chiari for his briefing on this matter. Denmark is concerned by the potential implications of this development for peace, stability, and the territorial integrity of Somalia and the broader Horn of Africa region. Denmark aligns itself with the statement issued by the European Union on 27th December, which reaffirms the importance of respecting the unity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of the Federal Republic of Somalia, as is enshrined in its constitution and in accordance with the charters of the African Union and the United Nations. Such respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity is fundamental to maintaining peace and security throughout the region. We note the widespread concerns raised by regional and international partners over the risk of unilateral actions that affect Somalia's internal constitutional order of setting a dangerous precedent that may exacerbate tensions rather than contribute to constructive solutions. Denmark underscores the urgent need for the resumption of meaningful dialogue between Somaliland and the federal government of Somalia. We believe that long-standing differences can only be addressed through sustained and inclusive political engagement. Any resolution of the international legal status of Somaliland must be clarified through Somali-led dialogue and within the framework of Somalia's legal and constitutional order. The international community must support processes that encourage consensus, reconciliation, and constructive outcomes for the people of Somalia. In this context, Denmark calls upon all parties to refrain from actions or rhetoric that might fuel regional tensions. Mr. President, Denmark reaffirms its commitment to the sovereignty and territorial integrity of sovereign states, to the principles of the UN and AU charters, and to peaceful diplomatic engagement as the basis for resolving disputes. We stand ready to work with partners in this Council and beyond to support peace, security, and stability in Somalia and the wider region. I thank you.
The representative of Denmark for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of Greece.
Mr. President, at the outset, Greece wishes to underscore the fundamental importance of respect for international law and the purposes and principles of the United Nations Charter. In view of the latest developments regarding the Federal Republic of Somalia, Greece expresses its grave concern and stresses the need to respect the unity, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and political independence of the state in accordance with the UN Charter as well as of the Charter of the African Union. In this context, we recall that Security Council resolutions on Somalia adopted under Chapter 7 of the Charter, including most recently Resolution 2809 of 2025, explicitly reaffirm respect for the sovereignty, territorial integrity, political independence, and unity of Somalia. Any actions contrary to these principles, while having no legal effect, risk leading to another cycle of instability. We therefore reiterate the importance of fully respecting Somalia's unity, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and political independence. Support for secessionist entities within Somalia, which could destabilize the country and lead to a reversal of hard-won counter-terrorism gains, is unacceptable and undermines current efforts for a peaceful resolution of the conflict. As is well known, the United Nations Transitional Assistance Mission in Somalia is currently delivering results in the second and final phase of its transition, with the aim of enabling Somalia to assume full responsibility for its own security. Initiatives that introduce unnecessary political turbulence into a country that has made tangible progress across the political, security, and humanitarian tracks run counter to these efforts and pose risks to regional stability. Beyond the internal dimension, the destabilization of Somalia carries a serious risk of spillover effect, potentially spreading instability across the Horn of Africa and beyond. In conclusion, Mr. President, Greece firmly believes that the situation is a matter that can only be addressed through dialogue with and through the legitimate and internationally recognized federal government of Somalia, in full accordance with international law and the United Nations Charter. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Greece for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of China.
President, I thank you for convening this meeting. China fully supports the request by Somalia, Algeria, Sierra Leone, and Guyana for an emergency council meeting. Thank SG Chiari for the briefing. On December 26, Israel announced its formal recognition of Somaliland as a so-called independent sovereign state and established full diplomatic relations with it. This has further increased the tensions in the Horn of Africa, drawing immediate and strong criticism and condemnations from regional organizations including AU, Arab League, GCC, OIC, and IGAD, as well as many regional countries. China also expresses grave concern over this move and firmly opposes it.
尊重主权和领土
Respect for
完整
sovereignty and
是联合国
territorial
宪章的
integrity is a
基本
fundamental
准则，
principle of the UN Charter
是国际法和国际
and
关
an
系不
unshakable
可撼
cornerstone
动
of
的基
international
石。
and international
联合
relations,
国所有会员国
which all
必须严
UN
格
member
恪守
states。must strictly observe.
索马里兰是索马里
Somaliland
领土
is
不可
an
分割的一
inalienable
部分。
part of Somali
中方
territory.
坚定支
China
持
firmly
索马里的
supports
主权、统
Somalia's
一和
sovereignty,
领土完整，
unity, and territorial integrity,
反对任何
and
分裂
opposes
索马里领
any
土的
act
行
to
为。
split its territory.
中方一贯认为
China， has
索
always
马里兰
maintained
问
that
题
Somaliland
完
issue
全是
is
索马里
entirely
内政，
Somalia's internal
应由索
affairs.
马里人
It
民
should be
以符
resolved
合
by
自身
Somali
国情
people in a way
和
consistent
宪
with the
法的
national
方式解
conditions
决。
and the Constitution.
域外国家应停止
Non-regional
不
countries
当
should
干涉，
cease unwarranted interference.
任何国家
No
都不应
country
为了
should
地缘利益
aid
而鼓动和
and
支持
abet separatist
他国
forces
内
in
部
other
的
countries
分
to
裂势力
further。their own geopolitical interests.
我们敦促相
We
关国
urge
家
the relevant
秉持
country
负责任
to
态度，
act responsibly,
切实遵守
strictly
联合国
observe
宪
the
章
UN
和
Charter
国际法，
and international law,
倾听国际
heed
社
the
会呼
call
声，
of the international
立即
community,
纠正错误，
immediately
并尽早
rectify its
消除
erroneous act,
不良影
and
响。
eliminate negative effects as soon as
我
possible.
们敦促索马里
We
兰当
urge
局
the
认
Somaliland
清形势，
authorities to grasp the
立即停
situation,
止分裂活
immediately
动，
stop separatist
和与外部
activities
势力
and
勾连，
collusion with external
尽快
forces,
回到
and
同索马里
return to the
联邦政
track
府对话的
of
轨
dialogue
道，
with the federal government of
避免进一
Somalia
步
as
威
soon
胁
as
地区
possible
的
to avoid
和平稳
further
定，
threatening regional peace
为更多
and
紧张和
stability,
冲突
and opening
打
the
开大
door
门。
to more tensions and conflicts.
主席，索马里
President,
当前正
Somalia is
值
at a
政治
critical
和安全
juncture
过渡的
in its political
关
and
键时
secure
刻，
transition.
国际社会
The
理应
international
帮助索
community
马里
should
增
assist the
强
country
反
in
恐能力，
strengthening counter-terrorism
推动
capabilities,
政治对话，
advancing political
促进
dialogue, and
国家团
promoting
结。
national unity.
作为索马里和地区国家的好
As
朋
a
友，
good friend of Somalia and
中
regional
方将继
countries,
续
China
坚
will
定支
continue
持
to firmly
索马里的
support
主权、统
Somalia's
一
sovereignty,
和领
unity,
土完
and
整，
territorial integrity,
坚持公
uphold
平正义，
fairness and justice,
同国际社会一道
and，together with
为
international
维护索马
community,
里和地区
work
和平稳定
harder for the
与
peace,
发展繁荣
stability, development,
做
and
出
prosperity
更
in
大努力。
Somalia and in the region.
谢谢主席。
Thank you, President.
I thank the representative of China for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of Pakistan.
We thank you for convening today's meeting at this critical moment for Somalia and the wider Horn of Africa region. I thank ASG Khalid Khiari for the briefing. At the outset, let me express Pakistan's unwavering and steadfast support to the sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity of the Federal Republic of Somalia. We strongly condemn the unilateral and unlawful recognition by Israel of the Somaliland region of the Federal Republic of Somalia. It is a direct assault on Somalia's internationally recognized borders and constitutes a flagrant violation of international law. The Somaliland region remains an integral, inseparable, and inalienable part of Somalia. No external actor has either the legal standing or the moral authority to alter that fundamental reality. A group of OIC countries, including Pakistan, has unequivocally rejected Israel's unlawful move, noting its serious repercussions for peace and security in the Horn of Africa, the Red Sea region, and international peace and security as a whole. The joint statement terms the recognition of parts of states a violation of the cardinal principles of international law and the United Nations Charter. Mr. President, these developments are especially alarming at a time when Somalia is demonstrating encouraging and tangible progress on its political and institutional trajectory. The federal government of Somalia, under the forward-looking vision and leadership of President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, has made notable strides in national reconciliation, constitutional reform, and the revitalization of state institutions. Positive trends in the financial sector, particularly the efforts related to economic legislation and preparations for inclusive one-person, one-vote elections, represent important steps towards consolidating Somalia's democracy and stability. Similarly, the phased two-year transition of the United Nations presence in Somalia is progressing smoothly. The handover of responsibilities under the first phase of the United Nations Transitional Assistance Mission in Somalia has been completed, and the roadmap for the second and final phase has been finalized, with the mission scheduled to cease operations on 31st October 2026. These gains reflect a Somali-owned, Somali-led trajectory towards political reconciliation and state building. This positive momentum must be protected and reinforced. not undermined by actions that risk fragmenting the country and reversing hard-won progress. Pakistan also acknowledges the sacrifices and resilience of the Somali people and its security forces, supported by UN, AU missions in confronting the persistent threat posed by Al-Shabaab and its affiliates. Continued predictable support for Somalia's security sector and stabilization efforts remain indispensable for preserving the hard-won gains against terrorism. Therefore, at this pivotal juncture, when Somalia is focused on defeating extremism, any action that diverts attention, weakens cohesion, or fuels division is profoundly irresponsible. Mr. President, against the backdrop of Israel's previous references to Somaliland of the Federal Republic of Somalia as a destination for the deportation of Palestinian people, especially from Gaza, its unlawful recognition of Somaliland region of Somalia is deeply troubling. For decades, Israel's dispossession and occupation of Palestinian land have been a central source of instability and conflict in the Middle East. It is now exporting this destabilizing conduct to the Horn of Africa with serious implications for regional peace and security. Pakistan unequivocally rejects any proposals or plans aimed at the forced displacement of Palestinians. Security Council Resolution 2803 endorsed President Trump's comprehensive plan to end the Gaza conflict, which unequivocally states, I quote, "No one will be forced to leave Gaza," unquote. Any actions that advocate or imply displacement or resettlement not only violate international law, but also undermine the prospect of a just and lasting peace. We reaffirm our steadfast support for the Palestinian people in their legitimate struggle for self-determination. The only path to lasting peace and stability lies in the realization of an independent, contiguous, and sovereign state of Palestine on pre-1967 borders, with Al-Quds al-Sharif as its capital. In conclusion, Mr. President, Pakistan calls upon the Security Council and the broader international community to speak with one voice and reject all actions that undermine Somalia's unity and territorial integrity. On our part, we remain firmly and resolutely committed to standing with the government and people of Somalia in the country's march towards peace and prosperity. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Pakistan for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation.
Господин председатель,
President,
благодарим помощника генсекретаря Халеда Хияри за
Assistant
брифинг.
Secretary General Khaled Kiari for his
Как и
briefing.
большинство наших коллег по
Much
Совету,
like the majority of our
глубоко
Security Council
обеспокоены
colleagues,
политически мотивированным
we are
решением
deeply
Израиля
concerned by
признать независимость
Israel's politically
Сомалиленда.
motivated decision to
Оно
recognize the
идет
independence of
вразрез с
Somaliland.
суверенитетом,
This decision is
территориальной
at odds with the
целостностью и
sovereignty,
единством
territorial
Федеративной
integrity,
Республики Сомали.
and the unity of the
С
Federal
пониманием
Republic of
относимся к
Somalia.
обоснованной реакции на
We very
это
much
решение
understand
правительства
the
ФРС,
well-founded reaction
руководства
to this
Африканского
decision
Союза,
on the part of
региональных
the government
государств
of the Federal
и
Republic
стран
of Somalia,
арабо-мусульманского
the
мира.
African Union leadership, regional
Выражаем
states,
озабоченность
and
возможными
Arab and Muslim
последствиями,
countries.
в том числе
We are
потенциальной
concerned by potential
эскалации напряженности
consequences,
на Африканском
including
роге
about
и
a
за его
potential
пределами.
escalation of tensions in the Horn of
В
Africa and
принципиальном
beyond.
плане
In
выступаем в
principle,
пользу
we are
урегулирования
in favor
внутрисомалийских
of settling
противоречий на основе
intra-Somalian
инклюзивного
contradictions
национального
on the
диалога,
basis of
без
inclusive national
вмешательства
dialogue,
извне.
without any external
Поддерживаем усилия
interference.
Могадишо по
We support
преодолению угроз
Mogadishu's efforts
безопасности,
to resolve
установлению
security
прочного
threats,
мира
to
и
establish
реализации
lasting peace,
суверенных
and to
приоритетов с
implement
учетом
its
культурно-исторического
sovereign priorities,
многообразия
factoring in the
этой
cultural and historical
многонациональной
diversity
страны.
of this multi-ethnic
Призываем международных
ethnic nation.
игроков не
We call
пытаться
on
обеспечить
international players
собственные
not
геополитические
to attempt to
интересы в
further their
регионе
own
Африканского
geopolitical
рога,
regions in the
играя
Horn of
на
Africa
системных
region
проблемах
by
африканских
capitalizing
государств.
on the
Хотели бы
systemic
также
problems of
подчеркнуть,
African states.
что
We'd
решения,
also like to
подобные
emphasize
принятому
that
израильским
decisions
кабинетом
akin to the one
министров,
taken by the
рискуют
Israeli
дополнительно
cabinet
осложнить усилия
risk
Могадишо
further
и его
complicating the
партнеров
efforts of
по борьбе
Mogadishu
с
and its
террористами
partners'
из Аш-Шабаб.
efforts to combat al-Shabaab
Коллеги,
terrorists.
на прошлой
Colleagues,
неделе,
just last
выступая в
week,
зале
speaking in this
по
very
мотивам
chamber
голосования по
on the
резолюции
topic of
Совета
the vote
Безопасности по
on
миссии
the
Африканского
Security
Союза
Council
по поддержке и
resolution
стабилизации в
on
Сомали,
awesome,
члены
the AU
этого
support and
Совета
stabilization mission in
подробно
Somalia,
говорили о том,
members of
какой
this
ценой
council
эти
spoke at
усилия
length
оплачены.
about the price
Прежде
that's been
всего,
paid
ценой
for
тысяч
these
жизней
efforts. Above all, the
афромиротворцев,
price involved
сотрудников
thousands
сомалийских
of
силовых
lives laid
ведомств
down
и
by African
гражданских
Union
лиц.
African peacekeepers, Somalians, Somali security forces and civilians.
Что нынешние комплексные вызовы в Сомали во многом являются следствием тяжелого наследия эпохи западного колониализма. Это, впрочем, касается и других африканских государств. Думаю, ни для кого в этом зале не секрет, где кроются коренные причины большинства территориальных споров или межэтнических и межконфессиональных противоречий в современной Африке. Россия, а до этого СССР, постоянно говорили об этом как на площадке Совета Безопасности, так и в Генеральной Ассамблее ООН. Совместно с широким кругом единомышленников Россия продолжает бороться с колониализмом во всех его формах, в первую очередь путем содействия строительству подлинно многополярного мира, основанного на равноправных и взаимовыгодных межгосударственных отношениях, исключающих диктат и вмешательство извне. В частности, в этом месяце по инициативе группы друзей в защиту Устава ООН была принята резолюция Генеральной Ассамблеи ООН о провозглашении 14 декабря Международным днем по борьбе с колониализмом. Как показывает ситуация, которую мы обсуждаем сегодня, Африка по-прежнему нуждается в подобных активных международных усилиях на антиколониальном направлении. Призываем все здравомыслящие страны, заинтересованные в содействии построению подлинно независимых и успешных африканских моделей развития, к ним присоединиться. В антиколониальном контексте, применительно к ситуации в Сомали, важно также вновь повторить нашу принципиальную позицию. Добровольная финансовая помощь сомалийцам представляется на безвозмездных началах и не может обуславливаться политическими требованиями. В заключение хотели бы выразить солидарность правительству Федеративной Республики Сомали и сомалийскому народу в этот непростой период. Россия продолжит поддерживать Могадишу в борьбе против международного терроризма и попыток одностороннего политического и экономического давления.
I thank the representative of Russian Federation for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of France.
Président, je remercie tout d'abord Monsieur le Sous-secrétaire général Khaled Khiari pour son exposé. Et la France rappelle son attachement à l'unité, à l'intégrité territoriale et à la souveraineté de la Somalie, conformément à la Charte des Nations Unies. La France se félicite des renouvellements récents du régime de sanctions visant le groupe terroriste Al-Shabaab et des mandats de la mission d'appui et de stabilisation de l'Union africaine, ainsi que du Bureau d'appui des Nations Unies, Il s'agit d'un soutien décisif apporté par ce Conseil à la Somalie dans sa quête de sécurité et de stabilité. Il convient d'éviter toute action susceptible de compromettre la paix et la sécurité en Somalie, ainsi que dans la Corne de l'Afrique et le Golfe d'Aden. Les différends internes à la Somalie
Internal disputes within Somalia must be resolved in a negotiated manner in the context of a dialogue between all Somali stakeholders. Easing of political tensions within the country is crucial to effectively counter terrorism and to enable the smooth conduct of future elections. Mr. President, I wish to recall in conclusion that faithful to the spirit of the New York Declaration adopted by the General Assembly on the 12th of September this year, France will continue to stand opposed to any forced displacement of the civilian population and to any violation of international law and international humanitarian law in particular. Thank you.
I thank the representative of France for the statement. I shall now make a statement in my capacity as the representative of Slovenia. I would like to thank Assistant Secretary General Chiari for his briefing. For 2 years at this table, we have been unambiguous in opposing two threats to international order and global security: the erosion of multilateralism and the disregard for international law. Colleagues, foreign interference does not arrive only with tanks and missiles. It also takes quieter but no less damaging forms: political pressure and actions that undermine sovereignty, territorial integrity, and political independence. These principles are not abstract. They are being tested today. It is in this context that we express our deep concern regarding the action taken against Somalia last week. It risks further destabilizing a region already burdened by multiple political and security crises. Slovenia reiterates its support for the unity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of the Federal Republic of Somalia. Only Somalis themselves can determine the future of their country, free from unwarranted external interference. It is up to Somalis of Somalia and of Somaliland to agree in dialogue on a system of governance that protects the interests of all parts of Somalia. Efforts of the international community should be directed towards supporting meaningful dialogue between Somalia and Somaliland. We encourage the United Nations, the African Union, and regional organizations to offer their support in this regard, should Somalis desire it. Colleagues, the current situation must not distract from Somalia's urgent security priorities, including the fight against terrorism. The international community should work together with Somalia, supporting its efforts through cooperation and sustained engagement. Colleagues, I have to address the issue of Palestine in comparison as raised by the United States. Slovenia recognized Palestine as an independent state. We did so in response to the undeniable right of the Palestinian people to self-determination. Palestine is not part of any state. It is a legally occupied territory, as declared by the International Court of Justice, among others. Palestine is also an observer state in this organization. Somaliland, on the other hand, is a part of a UN member state, and recognizing it goes against the Article 2, Para 4 of the UN Charter. Colleagues, throughout our tenure, we have consistently called for peace, not as an empty slogan, but as a responsibility. And we have worked to cultivate that notion through Leadership for Peace debates. To lead for peace is to place the pursuit of sustainable peace above narrow national interest, to choose cooperation over convenience. It is to recognize that sustainable peace is achieved not outside of, but through the United Nations itself. The United Nations is only as strong as the commitment of its member states. And for this reason, what the organization needs today is a mobilization of all of us, of its member states, for an alliance for peace. I resume my function as President of the Council. I now give the floor to the representative of Israel.
For his briefing here this afternoon. I wish to make it clear, Israel's engagement with Somaliland has a long and consistent record. In 1960, when Somaliland emerged as an independent state, Israel was among 35 countries that formally recognized its independence. In the late 1980s, under the regime of Siad Barre, Somaliland's civilian population was subjected to mass atrocities. Entire cities were destroyed. Civilians were deliberately targeted. These crimes are now widely recognized as the Isaac genocide. At the time, Israel was the only country to formally raise these atrocities in this very council. On May 2nd, 1990, Israel's then acting permanent representative, Yochanan Bain, submitted this letter to this very council, warning of grave human rights violations in Somalia, including the destruction of Hargeisa and the targeting of civilians. This document forms part of the official record of the Security Council. That record underscores the consistency of Israel's engagement, grounded in concern for human rights accountability and legal principles. That history provides essential context for the discussion surrounding Israel's recognition of Somaliland today. Let me be clear, Israel's recognition of Somaliland is neither provocative nor novel. It is a lawful, principled acknowledgement of a long-established reality, consistent with international law and aligned with the values that this Council is meant to uphold. Mr. President, Somaliland's modern political history is clear and well documented. On June 26, 1960, the former British Somaliland Protectorate attained independence as the State of Somaliland. In the days that followed, prior to its voluntary union with the Trust Territory of Somalia on July 1, 1960, Somaliland was recognized by 35 states, including the United States, the United Kingdom, France, China, Egypt, Ethiopia, the Soviet Union, and Israel. Somaliland entered that union as a recognized sovereign entity, exercising its right to self-determination. That union failed to produce a durable or fully ratified constitutional settlement. Political marginalization, repression, and mass violence followed. When the Somali central government collapsed, Somaliland reasserted its sovereignty in May 1991. For more than 3 decades since, it has existed entirely outside the authority of Mogadishu. Since 1991, Somaliland has consistently met the objective criteria for statehood under customary international law, as reflected in the Montevideo Convention. 1, it has a permanent population. 2, a defined territory. 3, an effective government. 4, the capacity to conduct foreign relations. In fact, Somaliland has held regular competitive elections, ensured peaceful transfers of power, and maintained effective governance and security throughout its territory. In a region marked by instability, Somaliland has demonstrated continuity, responsibility, and restraint. Moreover, Somaliland's engagement with the international community is already sustained and practical. Several states maintain representative, liaison, or economic offices in Hargeisa. These relationships reflect ongoing diplomatic, economic, and development cooperation. They also reflect an acknowledgement in practice of Somaliland's capacity to govern responsibly. Israel's recognition builds on this reality. This step was taken as an exercise of sovereign authority, consistent with international law and long-standing diplomatic practice. It is not a hostile step towards Somalia, nor does it preclude future dialogue between the parties. Recognition is not an act of defiance. It is an opportunity to promote clarity, an opportunity to encourage responsibility, an opportunity to strengthen stability in the Horn of Africa. This recognition is forward-looking. It aligns with the spirit of the Abraham Accords: cooperation over isolation, pragmatism over paralysis, and partnership over perpetual conflict. Somaliland has demonstrated a willingness to govern responsibly, to secure itself, and to engage constructively with regional and international partners. This trajectory is also not without precedent. In the case of South Sudan, early engagement by individual states, including Israel, preceded broader international recognition and supported international integration and stability. Reality was acknowledged first. Consensus followed. Mr. President, the question raised by Israel's recognition of Somaliland is not whether international law permits acknowledgement of long-established facts. It does. The question is whether this Council is ready to engage with reality as it exists. Somaliland's historical sovereignty, more than 3 decades of effective self-governance, and demonstrated capacity to act as a responsible international partner meet the legal criteria that guide recognition. Israel has aligned its foreign policy with this reality. This approach reflects the spirit of the Abraham Accords. It is grounded in international law and directed towards greater stability and security in the region. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Israel for the statement. The representative of Somalia has asked for the floor to make further statement. I give him the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me again the floor. Before proceeding further, I want to make additional remarks in my capacity as a Somali representative of Somalia to directly address the claims made by the representative of Israel who spoke before me. I will make 3 points, Excellency. First, actions of occupying power in Palestine and indeed in the broader region are well documented. These actions constitute clear violations of international law. What we see today and time again are acts to terrorize civilian populations and crimes against humanity and forced displacement of a whole community, starvation of innocent people, and killing and maiming hundreds of thousands. And someone doing all these things are lecturing us today what they call genocide and things like that. I'm shocked to listen to the outrageous comments from the Israeli representative. If we want to talk about genocide, it's Israel that's committing on our own eyes every day. He represents a government that killed more than 70,000 people, civilians, including children, women, elderly, doctors, and other health workers and patients in hospitals, destroying infrastructures, deliberately starving people of Gaza. To come before us, esteemed council, and accuse Somalia of committing genocide is just ridiculous and it's unbelievable. The other thing that I want to add is he has no idea what Somali is and where Somalis are and what Somali stands for. I think the history is a selective history that he has just generated on his own mind. Let me give you some lessons on this. There is a systematic, it's a troubling, Somalia is one country, one people, one religion that fought together for independence from the colonial. And Somalia is again one that's fighting terrorist organizations in the Horn of Africa as a one group, one religion, one ethnic group. And then when you say the Somaliland, that was a British Somaliland. It was two regions, the northeast region and northwest region. And now northeast region is part of, which is 45% of the land and the population are part of the federal government of Somalia. What we're talking about is northwest, which is also having a problem. Half of northwest is now older region, which is close to the Djibouti border. And they are totally against what the Isaq people that you say, Isaq genocide. And there was no such genocide in Somalia that took place. Somalia had a civil war, and the civil war has its own effects. And we believe the civil war was also financed from outside. So to come to this place and lecture us humanity and genocide and human rights and independence and democracy, and we know what you're doing on a daily basis, is just an insult. And I cannot take it without responding to this. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Somalia for the statement. I now give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Majed Abdelaziz, a permanent observer of the Permanent Observer Mission of the League of Arab States to the UN.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. سيد الرئيس اسمحوا لي بداية أن أعبر لكم عن تقدير جامعة الدول العربية لرئاستكم المتميزة لأعمال المجلس لشهر ديسمبر، الشهر الذي يتزامن مع اختتامكم وأربعة آخرين من أعضاء المجلس لعامين من العضوية غير الدائمة فيه من بينهم العضو العربي الجزائر أيضا، عضوية اتسمت منكم جميعا بالمصداقية والعمل الموضوعي البناء والمتميز المتفاعل بمصداقية وحرفية متناهيين مع الأحداث، والسعي إلى دعم دور مجلس الأمن في حفظ السلم والأمن الدوليين رغم الظروف الدولية غير المواتية. وإذا أتقدم لكم بالشكر جميعا ونرحب بالأعضاء الخمس الجدد في المجلس ونتمنى لكم كل التوفيق والنجاح. وعبر عن تقدير الإصلاحات المتميزة التي أدلى بها السفير خالد كياري مساعد السكرتير العام للشؤون السياسية وبناء السلام، ونضم صوتي لبيان دولة الكويت بصفتها رئاسة المجموعة العربية في شهر ديسمبر. السيد الرئيس، دعمت جامعة الدول العربية بكل قوة طلب A3+ المدعوم من أعضاء آخرين لعقد هذه الجلسة في أقرب فرصة ممكنة لمواجهة تطور خطير يمس جوهر النظام القانوني الدولي القائم في ميثاق الأمم المتحدة التي قامت على احترام سيادة الدول ووحدة وسلامة أراضيها. قد أجمعت ردود الأفعال الدولية على رفض وإدانة سعي إسرائيل القوى القائمة بالاحتلال في الأرض الفلسطينية والأراضي العربية السورية واليمنية لإطفاء الشرعية على مساعي الإقليم الشمالي الغربي بالمسمى
northwestern region of Somalia, known as Somaliland, which seeks to separate from the Federal Republic of Somalia. Israel aims to use this as a pretext for an illegal presence on Arab-African Somali soil to advance well-known political, security and economic agendas that are unacceptable and condemned. These actions frequently violate the United Nations Charter and the constitutive instruments of both the African Union and the League of Arab States. Most dangerously,
وتهدف لتسهيل مخططات التهجير القسري للشعب الفلسطيني واستباحة موانئ شمال الصومال لإنشاء قواعد عسكرية فيها. أوضح ذلك بكل جلاء البيان الذي أدان فيه معالي الأمين العام لجامعة الدول العربية السيد أحمد أبو الغيط هذا التحرك الإسرائيلي باعتباره مساسا بوحدة جمهورية الصومال الفيدرالية العضو في الجامعة العربية مشددا على الرفض القاطع للجامعة العربية له باعتباره انتهاكا لقواعد القانون الدولي وتعديا على المبادئ القانونية الراسخة وأهمها احترام سيادة الدول واستقلالها ووحدة وسلامة أراضيها التي تشكل بدورها أحد الأعمدة الرئيسية لميثاق الأمم المتحدة وأحد المبادئ الراسخة في القانون الدولي. وكما شدد معالي الأمين العام أن هذا التحرك من جانب إسرائيل القوة القائمة بالاحتلال يشكل انتهاكا إضافيا لقرارات الشرعية الدولية وموقفها ويشكل تهديدا مباشرا لدولة عربية عضو بالجامعة العربية وزعزعة للاستقرار في منطقة القرن الأفريقي والبحر الأحمر وخليج عدن ومساسا خطيرا بالأمن الإقليمي العربي الأفريقي المترابط الذي لا يحتمل مغامرات سياسية أو مساعي
reckless political ventures or delusional expansionist ambitions that are categorically rejected. Mr. President, in this context, the statement issued yesterday by the Council of the League of Arab States at its extraordinary meeting at the level of permanent representatives in Cairo yesterday, Sunday 28th of December. So the statement sets out the parameters of the Arab position, which I will summarize. First, we condemn in the strongest terms Israel's recognition of the secession of Somalia's northwestern region, known as Somaliland, in pursuit of political security and economic agendas that we categorically reject. We also fully reject any measures arising from this illegitimate recognition aimed at facilitating forced displacement of the Palestinian people or exploiting northern Somali ports to establish military bases. Second, we reaffirm the Arab League's consistent and clear position as reflected in its resolutions at all levels that the northwestern region of Somalia, known as Somaliland, is an integral part of the Federal Republic of Somalia, based on the League's charter, the principles of the League's Charter, based on the UN Charter, and the charters of all organizations of which Somalia is a member. We reject any attempt to recognize this secession directly or indirectly. Third, we assert that this unlawful Israeli recognition is part of Israel's broader attempt the broader attempts of the occupying power to undermine international peace and security and undermine Arab national security, warranting legal, economic, political, and diplomatic measures to confront it. Fourth, we affirm support for Somalia's security, stability, unity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. We support the federal government of Somalia in its efforts to safeguard Somalia's sovereignty by land, sea, and air. We reaffirm Somalia's right to legitimate self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter and relevant provisions of the Arab League Charter. We support the federal government of Somalia in any measures it decides to take to repel aggression within the framework of international legitimacy. Fifth, we express our full support and solidarity with the position of the state of Somalia that any act recognizing the secession of its northwestern region is null, void, and unacceptable. It constitutes a blatant violation of international law. It represents a flagrant interference in Somalia's internal affairs, and it undermines Somalia's sovereignty and territorial integrity, with grave implications for regional peace and security. It heightens political tensions in Somalia, the Red Sea, the Gulf of Aden, and the Horn of Africa. Sixth, we
consider Israeli moves as a dangerous attempt to reshape the geopolitical map of the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea off Somalia's coast. We call on the international community to confront these actions as threats to regional and international peace and security, and to freedom of navigation and global trade. Seventh, we categorically reject any form of forcible displacement of the Palestinian people from their land, from their state, or attempts to alter the demographic composition of Palestinian territory. As such acts are forms of the crime of genocide and grave breaches of international law and international resolutions. They undermine efforts to achieve a just and lasting peace and comprehensive peace. In this context, we reject the use of Somali territory to implement these aggressive Israeli schemes. Eighth, we categorically reject the use of any part of Somalia's territory by external actors as a platform for hostile or intelligence activities targeting other states or undermining their security and stability. Ninth, we are ready to mobilize the necessary support for Somalia's government to ensure the adoption of UN resolutions affirming Somalia's unity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity, and rejecting Israel's recognition as null and void and deeming it as a threat to international peace and security. 10th, we urge all states and international and regional organizations to refrain from any official or semi-official dealings with the authorities of Somalia's northwestern region, Somaliland, outside the framework of Somali sovereignty. We affirm that any infringement of Somalia's territorial integrity constitutes a hostile act against the Somali state and Arab and African states. It violates international law. Perpetrators of such acts will be held fully accountable under international law. The Arab League Secretariat, in close coordination with the government of the Federal Republic of Somalia, the AU Commission, and the UN Secretariat, will work to counter Israel's recognition of Somalia's northwestern region, Somaliland, as a threat to international peace and security under Articles 34 and 39 of the UN Charter. We will take all necessary measures to prevent the creation of new hotspots in the Horn of Africa and the Red Sea, while ensuring political and security political stability and safeguarding Somalia's unity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. In conclusion, Mr. President, it is imperative to treat this Israeli step as a threat to regional and international peace and security, and to compel Israel, the occupying power, to immediately revoke this decision, which constitutes a flagrant violation of international resolutions and the principles of multilateral relations. The League of Arab States also underscores the special responsibility of the Security Council to enforce respect for the Charter and international law, and to compel Israel to revoke immediately this recognition and to intensify global and regional efforts to achieve a comprehensive settlement of the Somali question and restore peace and stability in the framework of full respect of international law and international legitimacy. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank His Excellency Mr. Abdelaziz for his statement, and I give the floor to the representative of Turkey.
Mr. President, thank you for convening this meeting at a time when the principles of international order are once again openly challenged. We also thank ASG Chiari for his briefing. Following up on the joint statement issued on 26 December by the Ministers of Foreign Affairs of a broad group of countries, including Turkey, as well as the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, I will make 3 points today. First, Turkey firmly rejects Israel's announcement which constitutes a clear and serious violation of international law and the Charter of the UN. Unilateral recognition of a region that is a part of a sovereign UN member state directly undermines principles of sovereignty, territorial integrity, and non-interference. This announcement constitutes another example of the Netanyahu government's unlawful actions aimed at creating instability at both regional and global level. Such conduct cannot be normalized, ignored, or can be excused. Secondly, this announcement sets a dangerous precedent with far-reaching consequences. Undermining sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity of the Federal Republic of Somalia, a UN member state, is a blatant threat to international peace and security and risks encouraging fragmentation and instability, particularly in the Horn of Africa and the Red Sea. Moreover, this step by Israel, who persists its expansionist policies and which spares no effort to prevent recognition of the state of Palestine, amounts to an explicit intervention in Somalia's internal affairs. Decisions regarding the future of the Federal Republic of Somalia and the Somaliland region should and will be taken by the Somalis alone. Thirdly, Turkey reiterates its full and unwavering support for the sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity of the Federal Republic of Somalia over its entire territory. We reject any measures aimed at undermining Somalia's unity or weakening its internationally recognized borders, as well as its focus and efforts to combat al-Shabaab terrorism, which we support. We also reject any attempts to link this step to broader agendas that violate international law, including efforts aimed at the forcible displacement of the Palestinian people from their land, which are unacceptable in principle and must be rejected in all its forms. Mr. President, Turkey remains firmly committed to peace and stability in the Horn of Africa. We will continue to stand by the federal government and the people of Somalia and work relentlessly with regional and international partners toward this end. In this context, we expect the Security Council to uphold its responsibilities under the UN Charter and to respond clearly to actions that threaten the sovereignty of a UN member state, as well as international peace and security. We also call on all UN member states to explicitly reject Israel's announcement recognizing the independence of the Somaliland region of the Federal Republic of Somalia. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Turkey for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of Djibouti.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the outset, Djibouti wishes to reiterate its gratitude to Slovenia for convening this urgent meeting on a matter of profound consequence for international peace and security and for the stability of our region, the Horn of Africa. I want to thank ASG Khalid Ghayari for his briefing. Djibouti fully aligns with the statement by the A3. It also endorses the many important statements by the AU, IGAD, the Arab League, and the OIC, as well as the 21 countries in the region and beyond, which have condemned the actions by Israel, which took the unilateral decision to recognize the breakaway region, the so-called Republic of Somaliland. This decision is in direct violation of established international norms and legal principles. These norms are embedded in the founding text of the African Union and its constitutive act, which has the stated objective of defending the sovereignty, territorial integrity, and independence of its member states. Respect for another state's sovereignty and territorial integrity is an essential principle of the UN Charter. Accordingly, the UN Security Council has insisted in its resolutions on respect for Somalia's territorial integrity and unity. Today, Israel's reckless decision undermines these principles, defiantly violates the UN Charter, arrogantly challenges the authority of this council as it is wont to do, and threatens the foundation of the international legal order. It amounts to intervention in Somalia's affair insofar as this action foster the independence of Somaliland and the breakup of Somalia. It constitutes an unlawful transgression of the sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the political independence of the Federal Republic of Somalia, of which Somaliland is a constituent part. It sets an extremely dangerous precedent and encourages further fragmentation. Mr. President, such unilateral actions risks inflaming tensions within Somalia and across the Horn of Africa and the Red Sea, emboldening armed groups, bolstering terrorist groups, and unraveling the hard-won gains of the United Nations, the African Union, and the Somali government in our collective efforts to promote peace, security, and stability in the country. In this regard, this Council should take very serious note of the analysis made by the Somali government on the potential security ramifications of the destructive move by Israel in its press release dated December the 26th, 2025, as well as the various declarations made by concerned countries and organizations in the region and beyond. We also take note of the federal government's decision to reject the forced relocation of Palestinians in Somalia, as this is a crime under international law. By virtue of its sovereignty, Somalia enjoys the full range of sovereign powers of its territory and the activities taking place therein. Monsieur le Président, ce faux contrat est le produit de l'extrême détresse, d'ailleurs incompréhensible,
is the result of extreme distress, which is impossible to understand, which some representatives from northern regions of Somalia are pushing.
de la grande majorité des clans
All the
qui la
while,
constituent,
the majority of clans which make up that
à une
region
puissance occupante
mean
très
that
peu occupée, elle,
the occupying power is not particularly concerned with its obligations under international law, confident that that power can enjoy unlimited impunity until it performs systematic genocide against Palestinians, an occupying power which is proudly working outside international law, not needing to justify or explain its deliberate position.
Une puissance qui n'a
A
aucun
power
intérêt à
that
se
has
poser
absolutely
en
no
great
interest
explainer,
in presenting
dont les
itself as a
actions
great
trahissent
explainer,
la volonté de
and whose
mettre un
actions
point
instead
d'honneur à se
reveal a
poser
determination
en
to
great
portray itself
destroyer,
as a great
y compris
destroyer,
la charte des Nations
including a
Unies,
destroyer of the United
qu'elle a,
Nations
de manière
Charter,
répétée, déchirée en
which
lambeaux
it has
dans le hall
repeatedly
de l'Assemblée
torn
générale.
to threads in the General Assembly Hall.
Mr. President, Djibouti reaffirms its unwavering support for the sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity of the Federal Republic of Somalia. We therefore call on this Council to reaffirm clearly that no state should attempt to disrupt the national unity and territorial integrity of another state by extending unilateral recognition to a breakaway region of a sovereign state. Second, unilateral recognitions of secessionist entities undermine international law and pose a threat to peace and security. Third, peace and security must be preserved through respect for existing borders. Mr. President, in closing, let me reiterate, sovereignty and territorial integrity are not negotiable. We repeat and underscore what we said 2 weeks ago in Djibouti's statement delivered during the Council's open debate on leadership for peace convened by Slovenia. The legitimacy and continued relevance of the 24th century UN will be decided in Africa. Africans are rightly, gravely concerned by the repercussions and implications of this negative development for the security and stability of the continent. Hundreds of millions of people in the whole of Africa are watching us today and are expecting this Council to take vigorous action. The Security Councils must therefore respond with clarity, courage, resolve, and fidelity to the principles of the United Nations Charter. Thank you for your attention.
I thank the representative of Djibouti for the statement, and now I give the floor to Mr. Salem Matouk, Chargé d'Affaires of the African Union Mission to the United Nations.
شكرا لكم سيد الرئيس. اسمحوا لي
Thank you,
في
Mr. President.
مستهل كلمتي أن
At the
أتقدم
outset,
بالتهنئة
I would like
إلى
to
فخامتكم
congratulate you
وإلى جمهورية
and
سلوفينيا
congratulate the Republic of
على
Slovenia
النجاح الذي حققته
on the success
رئاستها لمجلس الأمن
you have achieved as
خلال
President
شهر
of the
ديسمبر،
Council during the month of
وأن
December.
أعرب عن شكرنا للرئاسة
We thank the Presidency for swiftly responding to the request of convening this important meeting, request made by the A3+1 and supported by China, Pakistan, and the Russian Federation. We also thank Mr. Khalid Khiyari, ASG, for his informative briefing. We fully agree with the joint statement by the A3+ delivered by Ambassador Osman, the permanent representative of the Federal Republic of Somalia. Mr. President, the African Union expresses grave concern over the latest developments in Somaliland. In this context, the African Union unequivocally underscores its firm position that is based on the principles of the AU enshrined in Article 4 of its charter. This article stresses very clearly the importance of respecting the inviolability of borders after independence. The AU categorically rejects any initiative, any measure that aims to recognize Somaliland as an independent entity. Somaliland remains an integral part of the Federal Republic of Somalia. Any attempt to undermine the unity of Somalia, to undermine the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Somalia is inconsistent with the main principles of the African Union. Such acts threaten to set a precedent with grave repercussions on peace and stability in Africa. The African Union expresses its grave concern over measures that are inconsistent with international unanimity, that are inconsistent with the principles of international law. Full respect of the United Nations Charter requires the full recognition of the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people to establish their independent state that is recognized by the vast majority of the United Nations member states. Rather than taking unprecedented steps, unprecedented provocative steps towards a region in the African continent. Once again, we reiterate the commitment, the historical commitment by Africa to the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people, including the right to self-determination, the right to establish its independent state with Al-Quds al-Sharif as its capital. Mr. President, we reiterate the commitment of the African Union to the unity, sovereignty and territorial integrity of Somalia. And we reiterate our full support to the efforts by Somali authorities to consolidate peace, to strengthen state institutions. The African Union will continue to stand with determination alongside Somalia in its effort to consolidate sovereignty, peace and sustainable development. I thank you for your attention.
I thank Mr. Matouk for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Egypt.
شكرا سيد الرئيس.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the outset,
بخالص الشكر على
I would
سرعة
like to
الاستجابة
thank you
لعقد هذه
for
الجلسة
having
الهامة في هذا
accepted
التوقيت
to
الدقيق.
hold this meeting at
وأود
short
التأكيد
notice at such
على
a
أن
critical
مشاركة
time.
مصر اليوم
And I would like to
تأتي من
reaffirm
منطلق
that today
عمق العلاقات
Egypt is
التاريخية
taking part in this
الممتدة
meeting
بين مصر
because we
والصومال،
have deep historical
حيث كانت مصر
ties
في طليعة
with
الدول التي
Somalia.
اعترفت باستقلال
Indeed,
الصومال
Egypt was among
عام
the first
1960
states to recognize Somalia's
وظلت منذ
independence in
ذلك الحين
1960.
وفية
And since that time,
لالتزامها الثابت
Egypt has always
بمساندة الصومال
supported
في دعم مسيرة الاستقرار.
always supported stability
ولا
in
نزال
Somalia.
نتذكر بكل فخر واعتزاز
We
تضحيات
remember
شهدائنا
with great
الذين
pride
قدموا
the
أرواحهم
sacrifices of our martyrs who gave their lives in defending the independence and territorial integrity of Somalia, which really is the embodiment of the bonds of brotherhood and common destiny that link together our two peoples. While the Somali state is moving forward to building its national institutions, and as the Somali state continues to fight the unjust terrorism, and as it continues to shape its future to turn a page on the past, Somalia now finds itself facing a new challenge today, namely Israel's recognition of the region termed Somaliland. This is a very serious precedent and a blatant violation of the principles of international law and the United Nations Charter, and is a direct assault on the sovereignty, unity and territorial integrity of Somalia. The recognition of the independence of parts of the territory of a sovereign state is not only an infringement of that country's sovereignty, it's also a direct threat to international peace and security, and it clearly contradicts the well-established principles of international law and the foundations of the African Union. The founding fathers of the Organization of African Unity were wise in scrupulously respecting the borders inherited from the colonial era, and they did this in order to avert any conflict in the region and to preserve the political and social fabric of the African continent. And this also helped to strengthen regional cooperation rather than sowing the seeds of further division. In line with the joint statement of 21 Arab, African and Islamic states, and in accordance with the statement of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation and the Gulf Cooperation Council, and also in line with the declaration made by the observer of the League of Arab States and the representative of the African Union, Egypt, for its part, has unequivocally refused to recognize Israel's recognition of what is called the Somaliland region. We have condemned this measure because it's a direct violation of the sovereignty, unity and territorial integrity of Somalia. This measure also is a serious risk for peace and security in the Horn of Africa and the Red Sea region, which is a natural extension of Egyptian national security. This solidarity reflects the nature and scope of the international rejection of Israel's move, and we believe that the number of states and organizations opposing this in coming days will continue to grow, because this decision risks fueling similar tendencies and practices in other regions of the world. Egypt therefore calls upon this esteemed council to unite in rejecting and condemning this Israeli action, which will undoubtedly have serious repercussions for peace, security, stability and safety of millions of African and Arab peoples in East Africa and the Horn of Africa, especially since this measure coincides with sincere regional and national efforts to resolve any outstanding inter-Somalian issues. Mr. President, during the current month, your Council has made commendable efforts led by the United Kingdom to reaffirm support for Somalia by renewing the sanctions regime imposed on al-Shabaab and also extending the mandate of the African Union mission in Somalia. You also supported efforts to strengthen the capacities of the Somali state, and you also backed national reconstruction and development endeavors in Somalia. Unfortunately, this unilateral Israeli move undermines this collective constructive effort and contradicts the foundations upon which the Council's approach is based. And this has been the case now for years, even decades. An approach confirming the unity of Somalia over all of its territory, instead of focusing our efforts on encouraging the Somali government to exert further efforts aimed at consolidating the pillars of stability and move toward the path of reconciliation and greater political participation. Unfortunately, regrettably, we have to focus today on the repercussions of these unilateral Israeli actions that undermine these efforts. Measures which threaten the political process that your Council has consistently called for and destabilizing the region and risking dragging Somalia into regional confrontations, whereas Somalia is not a direct party to those confrontations. Mr. President, the security and stability of Somalia is an extension of the security and stability of Egypt, and that's why Egypt believes that any move likely to fuel unrest in Somalia will not only have repercussions within Somalia itself, but will also threaten the region, creating uncertainty and instability. This will also embolden terrorist organizations, foremost among them al-Shabaab. They will use the current situation to expand their terrorist activities, thereby posing a real threat to regional and international peace and security. In conclusion, Mr. President, I'd like to reaffirm that your Council assume the responsibility to work against this unilateral Israeli move. It's not only about preserving the credibility of the Council's handling of the Somali file for years now, it's also an issue of upholding the role of the Council in safeguarding the principles that are at the core of the UN Charter and the international rules-based order. We look forward to this Council sending out a clear and unambiguous message to reaffirm the unity and sovereignty of Somalia. There can be no manipulation whatever the message used. A message that will reject any attempt to undermine the sovereignty of Somalia. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Egypt for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Kuwait.
شكرا السيد الرئيس. بداية أتشرف بأن ألقي هذه الكلمة بالنيابة عن المجموعة العربية، حيث تعرب المجموعة عن بالغ تقديرها لعقد هذه الجلسة في ظل تطور خطير يمس مبادئ أساسية في القانون الدولي ويهدد السلم والأمن في منطقة القرن الأفريقي والبحر الأحمر، بما ينعكس سلبا على السلم والأمن الدوليين. السيد الرئيس، تؤكد للمجموعة العربية رفضها القاطع وإدانتها بأشد العبارات لإعلان إسرائيل الصادر في 26 ديسمبر 2025 بشأن اعترافها بما يسمى إقليم أرض الصومال الكائن ضمن أراضي جمهورية الصومال الفيدرالية، وتعتبر هذا الإعلان إجراء أحاديا غير قانوني وباطلا ولاغيا ولا يترتب عليه أي أثر قانوني، كونه يشكل انتهاكا صارخا لسيادة ووحدة أراضي جمهورية الصومال الفيدرالية وخرقا سافرا لقواعد القانون الدولي وميثاق الأمم المتحدة.
and the Charter of the United Nations. المجموعة العربية على أن إقليم الشمال الغربي من جمهورية الصومال الفيدرالية هو جزء لا يتجزأ من أراضيها ذات السيادة، وأن أي محاولة للاعتراف بانفصاله بشكل مباشر أو غير مباشر تمثل سابقة خطيرة من شأنها تقويض المبادئ المستقرة للنظام الدولي وتهديد السلم والأمن الإقليميين والدوليين ومفاقمة التوترات السياسية في الصومال والبحر الأحمر وخليج عدن ومنطقة القرن الأفريقي. سيد الرئيس، ترى المجموعة العربية أن هذا الاعتراف الإسرائيلي غير القانوني يأتي في إطار محاولات خطيرة لإعادة تشكيل الخارطة الجيوسياسية في منطقة البحر الأحمر وخليج عدن قبالة السواحل الصومالية، ويعد تهديدا مباشرا للسلم والأمن الإقليميين والدوليين ولحرية الملاحة والتجارة الدولية، الأمر الذي يستوجب تصديا واضحا من المجتمع الدولي. وفي هذا السياق تؤكد المجموعة العربية دعمها الكامل لأمن واستقرار وسيادة جمهورية الصومال الفيدرالية وسلامة أراضيها برا وبحرا وجوا، ودعم مؤسساتها الشرعية وحقها الدفاع عن أراضيها وفقا لما نصت عليه المادة 51 من ميثاق الأمم المتحدة، وترفض رفضا قاطعا استخدام أراضي جمهورية الصومال الفيدرالية أو أي جزء منها كمنصة أو منطلق لأي أعمال عدائية أو استخباراتية من شأنها المساس بأمن الدول الأخرى أو استقرارها. وتؤكد المجموعة العربية رفضها القاطع لأي شكل من أشكال تهجير الشعب الفلسطيني من أرضه ومحاولات تغيير التركيبة الديموغرافية في الأراضي الفلسطينية، وتشدد على رفض استخدام الأراضي الصومالية منصة لتنفيذ مثل هذه المخططات العدوانية باعتبارها انتهاكا جسيما للقانون الدولي وقرارات الشرعية الدولية وتفويضا للجهود الرامية إلى تحقيق السلام العادل والدائم. سيد الرئيس، تدعو المجموعة العربية مجلس الأمن إلى الاطلاع بمسؤولياته وفقا لأحكام المادتين 34 و39 من ميثاق الأمم المتحدة واتخاذ موقف حازم أزاء هذا الإجراء الإسرائيلي غير القانوني بما يكفل حماية سيادة ووحدة أراضي جمهورية الصومال الفيدرالية ومنع خلق بؤر نزاع جديدة في منطقة القرن الأفريقي والبحر الأحمر وصون السلم والأمن الإقليميين والدوليين. ختاما السيد الرئيس، فإن المجموعة العربية تعيد التأكيد وبشكل لا لبس فيه أن سيادة جمهورية الصومال الفيدرالية ووحدة أراضيها وسلامتها الإقليمية ليست محل نقاش أو مساومة، وأن أي مساس بها تحت أي ذريعة أو غطاء يعد انتهاكا صارخا لقواعد القانون الدولي وميثاق الأمم المتحدة وتهديدا مباشرا للسلم والأمن الإقليميين والدوليين. وتشدد المجموعة العربية على أنها ترفض رفضا قاطعا وقانونيا وسياسيا أي محاولة لفرض أمر واقع جديد في الصومال أو إعادة رسم خارطته الجغرافية والسياسية أو التعامل مع أي كيان خارج إطار مؤسسات الدولة الصومالية الشرعية. وستواصل المجموعة العربية وقوفها الكامل والثابت إلى جانب جمهورية الصومال الفيدرالية ودعمها لأمنها واستقرارها ووحدة أراضيها برا وبحرا وجوا ومساندتها في كل ما تتخذه من إجراءات مشروع في إطار القانون الدولي للدفاع عن سيادتها، كما تدعو المجتمع الدولي وعلى رأسه مجلس الأمن إلى تحمل مسؤولياته كاملة واتخاذ ما يلزم من مواقف واضحة وحازمة تحول دون تقويض سيادة الصومال أو خلق بؤر نزاع جديدة في منطقة القرن الأفريقي أو البحر الأحمر، حفاظا على السلم والأمن الإقليميين والدوليين وترسيخا لمبدأ احترام سيادة الدول ووحدة أراضيها بوصفه ركنا أساسيا من أركان النظام الدولي. وشكرا للسيد الرئيس.
I thank the representative of Kuwait for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of South Africa.
Thank you, Mr. President. South Africa commends you and the Republic of Slovenia for the able manner in which you have presided over the Security Council for the month of December, and for your principled approach during the entire two-year term that you have served on the Council. We thank ASG Khaled Kayari for the briefing. Mr. President, at the outset, we wish to emphasize that we are meeting in the Security Council, a body defined by rules and laws that are part of the larger framework of international law that we as member states of this organization committed ourselves to in order to ensure the orderly and legal functioning of international relations. We all signed the UN Charter and pledged ourselves voluntarily to the international legal norms that flow from our obligations. It is regrettable that we meet again to discuss the blunt violation of the spirit and the letter, not only of the UN Charter, but of international law. Unfortunately, when we condone the steady erosion of the Charter and international law, we allow some of us within this organization to believe that they are beyond the bounds of the rules and are thus not accountable for any violation of international law. We have within our midst a state that continuously violates the resolutions of this Council and the organization with impunity. A state that violates international treaties, including the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. That state, the State of Israel, which has been allowed to get away with myriad of transgression and continues to this day to violate the very laws and norms that we all hold dear, now sees it fit to undermine the territorial integrity of the Federal Republic of Somalia, a fellow member state of this organization. It has done so by being the first state to recognize the illegal secession of a part of Somalia's territory. Mr. President, in 1964, the Organization of African Unity, the precursor of Africa's continental body, the African Union, adopted a resolution which considered that the borders of African states on the day of their independence constitute a tangible reality. The OAU furthermore solemnly declared that all member states pledged themselves to respect the borders existing on the achievement of national independence. This principle is further entrenched in Article 4B of the Constitutive Act of the African Union, which clearly states that the Union shall be guided by the respect of borders existing on achievement of independence. This principle of uti possidetis reaffirms that colonial borders at independence must be respected. These principles have been the legal basis of the approach by the continent to the principles of territorial integrity and self-determination, which are also enshrined in the UN Charter. It is for these reasons that South Africa firmly and unequivocally rejects any attempt at undermining the unity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of Somalia. We affirm that Somaliland is an integral part of Somalia. We reiterate the statement of the chairperson of the AU Commission that any attempt to undermine Somalia's territorial integrity runs counter to the fundamental principles of the African Union and risks setting a dangerous precedent with far-reaching implications for peace and stability across the African continent. Mr. President, the actions of the State of Israel as the only state to recognize the illegal secession of a part of Somalia's territory must be condemned as a violation of the UN Charter and international law. It is ironic and cynical that Israel wishes to be the only state to recognize Somaliland, while at the same time rejecting the recognition of the state of Palestine, which the overwhelming majority of UN member states have recognized as being legal in terms of international law. It is incumbent on this Council and the entire UN member states to safeguard the norms that have come to define our peaceful interactions. The actions that negate peace, such as the actions of the State of Israel, therefore warrant condemnation. I thank you.
I thank the representative of South Africa for his statement and nice words addressed to my delegation. The representative of Sierra Leone has asked for the floor to make further statement. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thank you for the opportunity to say a few words on behalf of my delegation, as this may be the final formal meeting of the year, and as Sierra Leone concludes its tenure on the Security Council. Allow me to firstly extend sincere appreciation to you, Mr. President, and the delegation of Slovenia for a successful presidency and for your steady and professional manner in which you've guided the work of the Council this month. As an elected member of the Council by the General Assembly for the 2024-2025 biennium, Sierra Leone places on record its firm conviction that we've endeavored conscientiously and resolutely to discharge our responsibility in line with international law and with faithful fulfillment of the UN Charter. Throughout, we have sought to build bridges through partnership, anchored in principles, guided by pragmatism, and driven by the Council's responsibility to maintain international peace and security. We've also endeavored at all times to uphold the solemn responsibilities set out in the UN Charter, that the Council acts on behalf of the entire membership of the United Nations. In that spirit, we're grateful to colleagues across the membership who've described Sierra Leone's contribution as one marked by moral authority and strategic clarity, anchored in the defense of international law, justice, and our shared humanity. Let me also renew our thanks to all members of the Council, permanent and elected, for the solid cooperation during this demanding period. We extend particular appreciation to our fellow A3+ members and to the wider E10 for the solidarity and collaboration. We particularly express deep appreciation to the outgoing members, the class of 2025, Algeria, Guyana, the Republic of Korea, and Slovenia, for the partnership, solidarity, and the commitment shown in navigating a complex and contested period. We also warmly congratulate the incoming members, Bahrain, Colombia, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Latvia, and Liberia, and extend our best wishes for a successful and impactful tenure. To Somalia, the incoming president of the Council, we convey our best wishes for a smooth and successful presidency. The monthly rotation of the Council's presidency remains one of the clearest expressions of the sovereign equality of states enshrined in the UN Charter. The Council's rotational presidency is a valued-based institution that must be respected and safeguarded. I also express Sierra Leone's profound gratitude to colleagues in the UN Secretariat for their professionalism and certainly steadfast support throughout our tenure. In particular, we thank the Security Council Affairs Division, SCAD, and all Secretariat colleagues, from conference officers, interpreters, translators, and the technical teams, to safety and security personnel, whose dedication ensured that the Council's work could proceed, often under intense pressure, and whose quiet excellence underpinned every meeting. I also wish to place on record a special acknowledgement of the dedication and commitment and work of the diplomats of the Permanent Mission of Sierra Leone, whose professionalism and sacrifice over the past 2 years contributed meaningfully to the Council's work in service of peace. Mr. President, on the important topic of consideration in this meeting, Sierra Leone reiterates once more the clear position expressed by the A3 Plus in the statement delivered by the Permanent Representative of Somalia, affirming unequivocally the sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity of the Federal Republic of Somalia. These are not optional ideals. They are foundational obligations under the UN Charter and the bedrock of Africa's stability and international peace and security. Yet this matter again demonstrates a deeply troubling reality. Fundamental principles of the Charter are being disregarded, and the Council risks being drawn into a period marked by blatant disrespect for international law and an environment that can be perceived as enabling impunity. So it underscores our firm belief with clarity that this seeming era of impunity is a blight on our collective security system, and it will not endure. Accountability, legal, political, and moral, will ultimately put an end to any illusion of impunity, as the alternative cannot be a reset, but an erosion of the very framework built to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, or from hell, as aptly said by former UN Secretary General Dag Hammarskjöld. Finally, Sierra Leone leaves this Council with a deepened conviction that a reform of the Security Council is not merely desirable, but imperative. The historical injustice against Africa must be redressed fully and without further delay if this Council is to retain legitimacy, credibility, and effectiveness. Until that reform is realized, Sierra Leone encourages all members to uphold the heightened responsibility entrusted to this Council, to act with restraint, fidelity to the Charter, and an unwavering commitment to international law, so that 2026 and beyond may be more stable and peaceful. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Sierra Leone for the statement. The representative of Guyana has asked for the floor to make a further statement. I give her the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Guyana's position on today's agenda item has been fully expressed in the A3 Plus statement delivered earlier by Somalia. However, I wanted to add these few words. As this seems likely to be our final meeting for the month and year, and it's certainly never certain, and Guyana's last meeting as a member of the United Nations Security Council, I take this opportunity to commend you, Mr. President, and the delegation of Slovenia for a successful presidency for the month of December, and wish Somalia the very best for their presidency in January. Guyana was honored to serve as an elected member of the Security Council for the past 2 years. During our tenure, we were steadfast in our commitment to contribute to the maintenance of international peace and security, and placed respect for the UN Charter and international law at the center of our efforts. We leave this Council even more resolute in this commitment and thankful for the opportunity to have made a modest contribution. I extend Guyana's heartfelt appreciation to all Council members for their support and partnership during our tenure. I also thank SCAD and the UN staff for the kind support provided. To our A3 brothers and sisters, joining the A3 Plus mechanism was one of the best decisions Guyana made at the start of its tenure. We are deeply appreciative of the partnership, friendship, and cooperation we enjoyed with Algeria, Mozambique, Sierra Leone, Somalia, and the African Union Permanent Observer Mission. Special appreciation also to our fellows in the class of 2025 who will move on like us at the end of this month. We extend best wishes to the incoming members of the Council, Bahrain, Colombia, DRC, Latvia, and Liberia. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Guyana for the statement. The representative of Algeria has asked for the floor to make further statement. I give him the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, President.
Je voudrais
I would like
proposer deux éléments.
to mention 2 points.
Le premier, c'est de m'associer
First of all, I would
complètement
like to fully align myself
à ce qui m'a paru être une improvisation,
with what seemed to me like an improvisation on your part.
une improvisation magistrale
Majestic
pertinence.
improvisation, particularly relevant.
En ce qui concerne la différence
I'm referring to what you said about the
de
difference,
nature, de substance,
difference in substance, in nature,
la
between
situation en Palestine,
the situation in
et la
Palestine
situation
and the situation
dans le Somaliland,
in
qui,
Somaliland,
selon nous, fait partie intégrante
which, the way we see it, is an integral
de
part
la Somalie.
of Somalia.
Deuxièmement,
Second,
et très brièvement,
and very briefly,
pour vous témoigner
we
de
would like to
mon admiration,
express to you my
Pour vous.
admiration,
ambassadeur
admiration for
Samuel
you,
Boga, and
Ambassador Samuel
pour
Boga,
votre équipe, mais aussi pour
and
votre
also
pays,
admiration for your team and your country.
pour la rigueur et l'engagement
We
dont vous avez fait
admire
preuve
your commitment and the rigor
durant
which you
votre
exhibited
mandat
throughout your term
au Conseil de sécurité.
on the Security Council.
Je peux témoigner
I can attest to the fact
que vous avez été
that you
le catalyseur
served as the catalyst,
de l'unité des membres élus du Conseil
the catalyst for limiting elected members of the Council,
et que vous avez réussi à nous réunir
and you
autour
managed to bring us together
d'objectifs d'un
behind
monde plus juste,
the objective of a fairer world,
un monde de paix,
a world of
un monde de
peace,
sécurité.
a world of security.
Je ne voudrais pas terminer
Now, it would be remiss
sans
of me to
rendre
end
hommage à mes collègues
without paying tribute
des A3+,
to my A3+ colleagues,
et particulièrement
in particular.
à celles qui viennent d'un pays
I'd
non
like
africain,
to pay tribute to
mais
the colleagues coming from a
qui
non-African
s'est
country,
attaché
colleagues
durant
which
ce
nonetheless
mandat
held on throughout the
à
mandate
défendre haut et fort
and committed themselves to staunchly
les
defending
causes africaines au sein
African
de ce Conseil.
causes here
Je voudrais
on this
parler
council.
de notre collègue du Guyana,
I am referring, of course, to our colleague from Guyana,
l'ambassadeur Caroline Brisket.
Ambassador Carolyn Brisket.
Au moment où l'Algérie
At a time when
va quitter ce Conseil,
Algeria is preparing
avec
to
le
leave the
sentiment
council with
du devoir accompli,
a feeling of having accomplished its duty,
je voudrais dire à mon collègue
I would like
élus
to
membres,
tell my
membres
colleagues,
élus de ce Conseil,
elected members of this council,
mais aussi à ceux qui vont avoir
my
la
message also
lourde
goes out
tâche
to
d'y rentrer, de
who
persévérer,
will be
de
coming
persévérer
onto the council. My
et
message is this:
de toujours tenter
persevere,
d'associer
persevere,
avec eux
and always
l'ensemble des membres du
attempt
Conseil,
to work together with
membres
all
permanents
council
et membres
members,
élus,
permanent members and
dans la
elected members
poursuite
alike,
de notre objectif
and all this in the
commun.
pursuit of our common
J'ai la
objective.
faiblesse de le croire,
It might
qui
be a
est la
weakness, but I do
préservation
believe it. Our
de la
objective
paix
being the
et de la
preservation
sécurité
of
internationale,
international peace and security.
en y ajoutant ce qui fait
And
la
I would also like
pertinence
to add
des membres élus,
that this is
c'est
something that's
de la
particularly pertinent
justice.
for elected members.
remercie.
I'd like to add justice. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Algeria for the statement, as well as the very kind words addressed to my delegation, the saying goes, thanks go to delegation of Guyana and Sierra Leone, the team of 2025, the class of 2025. There are no more names inscribed on the list of speakers. Before adjourning the meeting, as this seems to be the last scheduled meeting of the Council for the month of December, I would like to express the sincere appreciation of the delegation of Slovenia to the members of the Council and to the Secretariat of the Council for all the support they have given us. And if you allow me, I would also like to thank everyone as a representative of Slovenia and send special thanks to our fantastic team, both the Permanent Mission of Slovenia to the UN, as well as at the Ministry of Foreign and European Affairs back in Ljubljana. Indeed, it has been a busy month and one in which we rallied to consensus on several important issues within our purview. We could not have done it alone and without the hard work, support and positive contribution of every delegation and the representatives of the Secretariat, including the technical support team, conference services, officers, interpreters, translators, verbatim reporters and security staff. As we end our presidency, I now speak on behalf of the Council in wishing the delegation of Somalia good luck in the month of January. Yes. On behalf of the Council, I would also like to express the sincere appreciation of the Council to the 5 outgoing members, namely Algeria, Guyana, Republic of Korea, Sierra Leone, and Slovenia. As President of the Council, I want to thank them for their contributions during their term on the Security Council. I want to thank the Council colleagues for cooperation and camaraderie that you extended to our group, the class of 2025, one of a kind. We were privileged and honored to serve on the Council. We did our best to live up to the expectations of the general membership of the organization whom we represent on this Council. And with this, the meeting is adjourned.